It is the ESL Open Cup Korea number 125. I'm TitanOnFire. It has been a while. It has been way too long, actually, since I have done any StarCraft 2 casting. I've been working. Ugh, a real job. What is that? That's disgusting. But I'm back. Hopefully we'll be able to get some awesome content. I'll be able to cast a bit more consistently, because I know, it's been a while now. Hopefully, I tested it out before. My mic is not too echoey. I have a temporary setup here, so we're going to see how it is working out. But enough talking. Bottom left-hand corner here from Alpha X on 2,000 atmospheres for game number 1. It is Classic. And in the top right, ladies and gentlemen, from the Kwangdong Freaks, it is SOO. And of course, SOO, I think, has been a little bit, still is very much a very strong player online. I don't think anyone is going to doubt that online. SOO has had great performances, beating top-level players like Beyond. That's like the one that I can think of off the top of my head. However, in LAN, in the GSL that he did qualify for, has not looked as clean per se. This is a bit of spoilers. The group stages was very, very rough. Did manage to qualify still when a very, very close series. I believe it was versus Beyond that he ended up winning, if I'm not wrong. And so Beyond was eliminated. SOO got through, has started off his the next round 0-2 in that round robin, which obviously I think is not the best, but SOO's still playing. He's still grinding. He's still learning. He's still getting back into the form that I think a lot of people want to see him in for this next DreamHack season when it rolls around after Valencia, which of course is actually currently ongoing as I am casting this. I believe. Yes, it just finished up. This was the day before Sunday, so the Saturday just finished up, and I'm casting some StarCraft 2. I'm in the mood. But with that being said, Classic is going to be going for the Stargate first, and this is, it's Classic. This is classic. Stargate openings have always been his bread and butter. It's no surprise at all that that's what he's going to be going for. It's usually going to be a Void Ray. Classic is not one of those players who's going to do something like your what is it? Trying to think off the top of my head. He's not gonna do anything like your double Stargate Phoenix that we've seen some players do. Although, of course, on 2,000 atmospheres, that build is not going to be used as often. It's much more a build that is specifically for something like a Glittering Ashes. But it's actually gonna be the Oracle first, so we will see the harassment option coming out. The Overlord is just diving on in, so the Stalker will get the kill regardless, and I think it's going to be nice for Classic just to have that Oracle out on the map. We'll see what the option is after. We've seen some players kind of, depending on their comfort level with different types of openings, change up what they build out of this Stargate. So a lot of times what you'll end up seeing is your 2 to 3 Oracles. I think the consensus has usually reached that 3 Oracles is pretty good. It gives you a lot more defensive power than just the 2. While yes, it is going to slow down your transitions, it's not a large enough delay with the timing of the third base that you're going for that it really causes any disruption for the Protoss's attack. We'll see if Classic is going to take that route, though. Right now, just has the 2. We'll see if the third is added on. It does not look like it's going to be. Yeah. So it should just be the 2 Oracles. We'll see this Oracle is going to be able to defend the immediate base. SOO tried to poke it down, but the Lings just don't quite have that DPS that you really want to be able to get the cancel there on that third. Across the map, the Oracle did try and dive on. Actually found 6 kills. Behind all of that, 6 drones ended up going down. So Classic already off to a pretty good start this game. 3 Adepts going to make their way across. Obviously, he's going to have the map control of these 2 Oracles. Can just dive on into this main base again if he so wishes. SOO has actually neglected to build his Spore Crawler, which I think is actually a pretty big oversight as the Adepts complete their shades. Going to try and look for a few more drone kills here, and it looks like a few more are going to go down. At least 2 have fallen. The Adepts will go down for it. But 11 drones in total falling. This Oracle picking up 6 kills, and now they're going to dive back into the natural, and there are just no spore crawlers here for SOO, and it's 5 minutes. That is just not a corner that you can risk cutting, as SOO is taking so much damage. The Oracle will, I mean, one of them will eventually fall, but 19 drones going down, and I wish we had Game Heart. Of course, with replays, if the players don't add Game Heart, it's pretty hard. You can't really see a live update on everything that's happening, but yeah, that was not worthwhile for SOO. Is gonna, I mean, shark around the links, try and find some damage, but overall, there's not really gonna be that many openings. This Oracle, 10 kills. I don't know the actual ranks of the units, as it's just gonna dive back on it. There's only 1 queen in the natural. Classic can afford to do this. 12 kills on an Oracle. Warp Prism is going to spot the Lings. A mutual passing in the night here. So Classic should know that they're still hanging around. SOO will know that Warp Prism is headed across the map. As of course it is going to be Blink and +1. A whole lot of sentries have been added on here for Classic. And of course this is going to be for your 3-base timing attack that a lot of, again, has kind of become the standard here for Protoss. Is this +1 Blink Stalker timing attack. Now SOO is getting out roaches, has the Glial Reconstitution on the way, and that means that he will start to get these roach upgrades up. He will have an army that is capable of fighting the Stalkers a little bit better than just pure Zerglings, but I don't know if SOO is really going to have enough to deal with it by the time this attack comes across the map, because you have a Warp Prism, you have +1, Blink is already done. The roach upgrades are not even halfway through, as the Oracle once again is going to dive in, and there's no spores! SOO! I mean, I know that this is SOO's style. This is how he likes to play it, is he likes to be very, very greedy with how many spores he gets, but it's just not working out as the Blinks just go through. And Classic is going to just try and end the game right here. Immediately, Guardian Shields are getting popped, Force Fields going down, and the Corrosive Biles are already used up, which means that a lot of SOO's army is just trapped out of this fight. Some more amazing force fields are going to section off parts of this army, as Classic is just absolutely running over this Zerg force. The reinforcements are trying to come through, and it might just barely be in time, as the Warp Prism is going to go down. Zealots being warped in to help fight the Zerglings, but the Stalkers are going to blink back. And, I mean, SOO fighting valiantly here, but the Ravagers are all going down. Now the Queens are going to fall as well. And Classic, it looks like he's broken SOO with one swift blow. That was an absolutely gorgeous engagement from Classic. And there is nothing left here for the Guangdong Zerg. He's going to try and bring the drones back. A few more roaches as reinforcements, but it just doesn't matter. There is too much here for Classic. GG. Game 1 going over to the Alpha X Protoss. And yeah, I don't think there's much to say about that Game 1. Oracle is getting, overall, I think 15 to 16 drone kills is just never an acceptable level of damage. There's just no reasonable way for a Zerg to really macro out of that position unless the Protoss really messes up their timing attack. And Classic, I mean, you saw, he could just blink in. There was no world in which SOO could really do anything to stop Classic from winning that fight. And so no matter how Classic approached it, unless he just didn't go for that timing attack and pulled back, he was most likely going to be able to win it 100% of the time. If he just slowly picked away units from the outside, if he just blinked in like he did. SOO had to spend so much money replacing drones that you end up not having that money then available to actually build the things that you might need to defend against the timing attack. And Classic, he does just really, really well executing that build. And of course, hopefully we're going to continue to see that level of play from Classic. I think Classic has been a very kind of weird story on after his return from the military, where his level has been fluctuating, I think, quite a bit. I don't think he's necessarily, I mean, of course you have Hero, who's kind of like the front runner for Protoss in terms of, you know, kind of with the meta, defining the meta, and how you're going to play the matchups. And Classic, I think, has not had that same level of success recently. Classic has definitely had a lot harder time finding, you know, solid runs into the GSL or the Super Tournament. Has not been the easiest for Classic, and so it is definitely kind of this strange place that I think Classic sits among the pro players that did come back this year or in the past 2 years. Where you even have, for instance, Gumiho is starting to have some pretty decent results, even just online. Has been playing very, very well. Of course, we haven't been able to see that in something like a Super Tournament, a GSL Code S, or anything like that just yet. But it's on the up and up. You know, we're seeing Gumiho take series off of, take series off of Zest, take series from, actually has beaten Hero on multiple occasions. And so it was nice to see Classic execute that build so well. It was nice to see the micro be very, very clean with the force fields. Everything just kind of worked together as well as it needed to. And the hope is that we can see that again. Now, I don't think we're going to see the same amount of drone damage. I don't think there's a world where SOO again takes 19 drones worth of damage. And this is an issue that SOO has had in the past, as we do see a singular drone go down here to this first Oracle. But SOO plays this style that is very conservative with his Overlord placement and with his Spore Crawlers. And this is, I believe this is something that even someone like Pig talked about on their stream once when recapping the GSL group, is that SOO is, I think, very, very good right now, but a lot of his struggles come from the fact that he really doesn't know what is coming at him until it's a little bit too late sometimes. As we do finally have a Spore Crawler here in the main, that doesn't mean that the Oracles had to get on out. One of them is just going to get sniped right away, because the natural is open, but again, the Queens can just walk on down. You get 2 more drones. You've killed 5 in total. It is I think that is an arguable trade there. Some people might say that's worthwhile. You get the 5 drones. Hey, you have a 3rd Oracle that you've actually built, so you can have 2 more dive on in. But overall, I think Classic is still looking for a little bit more damage here with these units, as the Queens are now all in the natural. You just have to get on out of dodge. Going to be a free kill there for a sentry, or onto a sentry for SOO, and is actually, potentially was going to be able to snipe 2 more probes there. But overall, I think not the best trades for Classic. Sure, you get the 5 drones, but you want more, especially when you're committing 3 Oracles diving into mineral lines. Ideally, you would look to get, I would say, 8 drones or so worth of damage. But there were no adepts across the map. It was just the Oracles. The Queens were able to mirror their movements very, very well. And this time, SOO does get that Spore Crawler in the main, and it does make a world of a difference. Has it also in the 3rd now. Has not added one onto the natural, just because of the shape of Blackburn. It's a little bit easier to get away with that. But it's nice to see SOO making these adjustments, because again, this has been something that has bit him quite hard multiple times actually this year, is just the lack of these things like the spores, and finally getting it down. Now the Oracle micro was quite good there. He's gonna be able to snipe off another 5 drones, and that does begin to make this just a bit more worthwhile for Classic until that Oracle does go down. And the 3rd one here is actually gonna get quite low as well. Classic will be able to get on out with it. The 4th base going up here for Classic very, very quickly. This was a sub 6 minute 4th base, which of course is about the greediest that a Protoss can get without the Zerg just being able to run across the map and killing them with what they have currently available. But it's a Spire on the way. This was scouted. +1 Glial Reconstitution is going to be Roach Ravager with the option of going into Mutalisk a little bit later on. Could also, again, it's Blackburn. You can do Broodlords on this map, but I don't think this is going to be anything like a really good Broodlord bust here from SOO. These Revelations are going to go down. These Oracles, now that they've found the 10 drones, this Oracle will just be used for tagging units with Revelation, keeping track of everything that is going on in the Zerg base. Hallucinated Phoenix will see the 2 Evo Chambers researching, will see the Roach War, and I think I saw Glial Reconstitution finish. And so again, Classic should have a good idea that this is not really going to be, this Spire is not at least going to be used right now. You're not going to have to worry about those mutas until at least later in the game, where potentially SOO is going to look to add them on to this army composition. But right now it's just +2 melee, +1 ranged. You're looking for centrifugal hooks and also just more Zerglings being added on. And Classic is getting into, I think, a little bit of what we do expect from Protoss again on this patch. It's +2 on the way, charge to augment these Blink Stalkers. And it's, again, the same kind of composition. This is what we've been seeing players have been using to great effect. Now, this position is a bit awkward. The force field's not the best, so a lot of these roaches are going to get through before Classic is eventually going to try and turn on it. But mind you, there is no charge available here for these Zealots, so the trade is going to be a little bit rough at the start. A good stasis trap is going to get a lot of the Zerglings. That's just a YOLO blink forward from Classic, and I don't think that's the right move, because there is so much here for SOO to try and defend this. The Zerglings getting so much value on the back end of this. Another blink forward onto the Ravagers to try and get rid of those high supply units, and Classic is starting to even it out. Now that the Zerglings are gone and just the Ravagers remain, it is pulling even more Zealots coming through now with charge available. SOO is not going to be able to continue to take this fight. Now Queens are going to fall, and Classic once again just trying to push it down. It is such a close fight, and it looks like Classic is just barely going to win it. He's going to kill off the rest of the Queens. 24 more Zerglings on the way. SOO trying to get his reinforcements up. Classic has to be careful, though. Does not have an observer to clear up this creep, and so can't dive too far in without reinforcements. More Stalkers going to come through, and he's just going to try and deny the mining here on this 4th base, and I think that's absolutely the right call to make in this situation. But my god, was that a close fight. So here we go. Classic gonna have to blink away. Does a good job of it. And now he's just gonna once again blink on forward. Thinks he has the numbers. A lot of the Zerglings have already gone down, but now Banelings coming on in are gonna find, I mean, decent connections, but they're not the best against Stalkers. Are very, very tanky. Corrosive Vials will be able to zone out the rest of this army, and Classic is just gonna back on up. Position for Classic is quite awkward for the Zerg to deal with right now. Only the Ravagers really have the range to stop the Stalkers from firing down onto this hatchery. Of course, SOO has replaced his 4th base and has that in the top left, but at the same time, mind you, Classic is also looking for his 5th. You know, he's been mining off of a gold base for so long in this game. It has a pretty large bank that's actually started to build up. How many gateways do we currently have? We have the 10 gates available for Classic, but no robotics facility yet. I think that is probably potentially going to be the only point of weakness here for Classic, is that there's no robotics facility. Also doesn't have a Templar Archives or a Dark Shrine, and so you don't have the option of adding on Archons to this army, which would just make it that much stronger for these fights, as now so many Banelings have been added on here, and they're going to try and roll on through. Looks like the blink backs are going to be clean so far, but I mean, Classic just has to keep running. The Zealots trying to body block the best they can, and it's a fight being taken on 2 fronts. Eventually, all of the Banelings are going to fall. This game has been an absolute bloodbath. Zerglings going to make their way on into the 5th base. There's a very, very large mineral line here to try and take advantage of, but you really are not going to be able to target down that many probes. Right now, Classic is finally adding on observers to his army. This has been missing for so long, and I think that's really what's allowed SOO to stay in this game, is the fact that he has pretty decent creep spread here around the middle of the map, around the bottom side. But now with observers being added in, a warp prism as well finally being added on, Classic is going to start to get into these tech options that are necessary to kind of start to push the game in his favor again. One of the big reasons why he couldn't kill SOO with his initial push is just because he did not have any way to quickly reinforce this army. Is now SOO once again going to try and dive on top of the Protoss. A blink back is all that it takes in Classic. Trying to fight on 2 locations. There's not really enough here at the top of the map to deal with this army. All of the the Zerglings are going to be brought on through. But at the same time, you're going to have Classic try and fight at the bottom. Banelings rolling in. Blinkbacks are good. The splits so far from Classic have been pretty immaculate, but his supply is just falling so far down. As SOO is taking some great fights on both ends. Split off enough Banelings to deal with the front, enough to deal with the bottom. And SOO has actually handled this wonderfully. I mean, it felt like Classic was so far ahead. He had +2, has +1. But it just doesn't matter in the end. The Banelings are able to find the connections they need. There's enough Ravagers. And because the army isn't clumped up together, you don't really have the ability for Classic to just blink on top of these Ravagers or to get that critical mass to really fight the army of SOO. Very, very good play so far from SOO as Blinkbacks like have to come through. A Stalker is going to get picked off. Once again, this gold-based location is going to be annoying for the Zerg with the Stalkers, with the aggressive position that Classic is able to take on this map with his 5 bases, with a 6th now mining. The bank is being rebuilt as, oh my, this is a massive blink into the main. So many Zealots are going to be warped on in for Classic. That's going to be the spawning pool going down. There's another hatchery that is morphing in, and a great force field here onto the ramp. There's not going to be another one, though. Only a single sentry was warped in, but that means that gives time for the Zealots to get rid of all of the Zerglings. SOO's supply is dropping, and now it's going to be the layer that is under fire. As Classic, this move, as it's going to start to be a little bit questionable whether or not it's paying off. The spawning pool has been replaced. Another hatchery is going to be the target here for Classic as more Zealots being warped on in. The hatchery is going to fall, and the Zealots that were warped in are going to be cleaned up, but this whole army for Classic is going to end up dying. At the same time, we had Zealots hit the top. They actually kill the hatchery. As Stalkers were hitting the mineral line, you end up killing, I mean, in this game in total, 37 workers. Almost all of the hatcheries are going to fall. What? This is the second to last one remaining, and it's so close. But SOO is going to save it with 10 health left. As Classic went all in there, his entire army, to eliminate the main, the natural, and the 4th base of SOO, but he lost his whole army for that move. And mind you, SOO still has all of his roaches. He still has most of his Zerglings. Now Mulists are going to be added on. And I don't know if that was worthwhile for Classic. Sure, you're going to use up the bank of the Zerg, but you have to completely remake your army from scratch now. As the Protoss, more gateways are going to be added on. More Immortals now in this composition. +2 armor will be finishing out very shortly. As we have +1 coming through for the Spire, the +1 a Carapace as well from the Evolution Chamber. SOO's upgrades are really not that far behind that of the Protoss. Now we're going to have the Mutas. This has been what the Spire was built so early for, is this eventual transition from SOO. It's not a large amount of Mutas by any means, but hey, he's going to be able to catch this small clump of probes that are still at the main base that were not transitioned when those mineral patches ran out. And this is SOO buying time for his hatcheries to be remade. The 4th is getting rebuilt. He's taking another base here at his 6th base location, as well as his 5th, the gold base, being able to mine now. And one of the inadvertent, I think, advantages here for SOO is that because Classic delayed the mining from the gold base as long as he did, and SOO has been able to hold on, SOO now has that gold base income much later in the game than his opponent. Classic, we saw there, only 2 mineral patches left on the gold base. These Mutas still causing havoc for Classic. I mean, a lot of them have gone eliminated, but there's just so many Zealots in this army, and the Stalkers that have been trying to chase them down do not have the movement speed. Simply, that was a Baneling run by that. To find about, I think, Almost 20 probes, another 4 are going to go down. And have the Mutas bought enough time. SOO is going to be maxed out again, but that's Zealots heading towards the main base. This is now the new replanted, what it will be the 5th base here for SOO at his 6th base location. The Banelings are going to roll on in. The hatchery does go down. The pre-split is already here, though, for Classic, because the Immortal is going to be able to tank up a lot of damage, but there is a lot of Zerg here for SOO. Just going to try and roll on through. We're going to see Stalkers go down. And as everything is going to fall, it is just the Zealots remaining. And sure, you might get some damage in the main, but the Mutas are there. They're going to clean it up. And SOO is suddenly ahead in supply. Sure, he's down in bases, but he has the army. 120 army supply versus 88. The Mutas clean up the Warp Prism, and the layer stays alive. The rebuilt layer stays alive. Another fight once again. No more Banelings here for SOO, but still going to be able to try and take this fight. As the Roach is just fighting the Zealots straight on up. And this is not the fight you want to take as Classic. No, you want to be a lot safer than this as SOO. It seems like he's done it. He's somehow held on to this game. And he's going to be able to roll over the last remnants of the Protoss army. As it's only 36 army supply left. 52 workers for Classic. But he is out of minerals at his 3rd. The gold base is gone. And SOO is now up 70 supply. +3 armor is on the way here, but it's going to be another base under fire. And there are probes transferring to this base as the Zerglings are going to make their way through it. I don't think there's enough DPS here without the Adrenal Glands for it to really matter. Stalkers blink on up. They are going to snipe off that layer, which was made so low before by the Zealot drop. As the Muta is just continuing to be a pest for Classic to deal with. SOO has managed to now get this essentially his 6th base up and running. Still has those gold mineral patches. They are starting to run out, though. Mind you, neither player has been able to take the 12 or the 6 o'clock. Uh-oh, Stalker's getting caught out, and Stalker's greatest weakness is the Zerglings when they can get on top of them, and this looks like Classic might have just gotten a little bit too overextended. He does not have the income anymore, and the Corrosive Biles are absolutely deadly. Now I think Classic has started to realize that this might be the beginning of the end. All there is left for the Protoss, 100 supply versus 199, and I don't think SOO realizes how far ahead he is because he has been fighting tooth and nail to stay in this game. And it has paid off wonders. As now the Zerg is in a position where one A move is all that it is going to take for him to be able to win this game. He's going to send us to a game 3. And I do apologize for the frame drops that we've been getting over this game. I'm going to check that out between this and the 3rd, so hopefully it will be fixed. But here we go. SOO is just going to dive on in. Again, the blinkbacks come through. SOO is just trying to defend this base. And again, it feels like SOO is giving far too much respect to what Classic has. He thinks that the Protoss is so much stronger than they are. And the truth of the reality is, this is it. This is all that Classic has. It is 70 army supply versus the 128 of SOO. Classic is behind in every single measure. The Zealot Warp is just going to get cleaned up. SOO has been so proactive with his Mutalisks, as that's so much damage in the mineral line. We're going to see another 7 probes go down. The Nexus is going to fall, and that was one of 2 last mining bases here for Classic on Blackburn, as the Roaches are just going to try and find as much value as possible, chasing down the Stalkers. They will get eliminated. And SOO, I mean, feels like it's almost about time to just end this. Classic is trying to take this bottom base, and if SOO delays enough, I don't even know. If SOO waited another 8 minutes, I don't even think that would be enough time for Classic to get back into this game. Here we go. SOO diving on in. Baneling's not going to be able to find that many connections with the Stalker Concave, but there's just still so much Zerg here for SOO as more Banelings are going to come on in. More Zealots, more Zerg legs. The Zealots are gone. The Stalkers are now going to get eliminated. The shield battery line is going to fall as SOO should be able to break through this position. All of the probes are going to go down. And GG, we're going to game 3. And of course, Hardwire is a map that will probably go a little bit shorter than Blackburn. Blackburn is usually that map that, I mean, it never goes below, it feels like, the 16-minute mark. Unless you have some player going for some sort of a cheese. Timing attacks are a little bit weird on it to make them really work, and so we usually end up seeing games on Blackburn just go that little bit longer. So we'll end up seeing what happens here on Hardwire, though. Hardwire much more standard, especially in ZVP. It tends to go a little bit faster. Sometimes you'll get the ultra long ZVTs, especially on this map, but that's less so the case in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. I did hear some thunder that was rolling on in, so hopefully that will delay itself until after this game is done. I would prefer not to have a power outage. Please and thank you. But I hope you're all enjoying. Again, it's been a while getting back into the swing. I had to take 2 weeks off from casting just because of work and training. But I'll be back. I'm back doing it on my off days, and hopefully we'll have some amazing replays coming up, especially with all of the major events that are now starting to get pretty far ways through. Of course, GSL is delayed because of the IEM, or the DreamHack Masters. Excuse me. I accidentally muted the wrong thing. Oh no. Sorry about that. But yeah, especially with DreamHack Masters, so GSL will take a little bit longer to finish up, but then we'll be heading, of course, into Super Tournament 1. We'll be heading into the next set of GSL qualifiers, and of course, after this DreamHack, we'll be heading into the next season for the summer. That will be very, very interesting to see how it ends up going, as we're kind of in this last year. Of course, the ESL supported StarCraft 2 tournaments. It's crazy that it is here so quickly. You know, it feels like yesterday when that deal was announced. And of course, hopefully support will continue. That's kind of in the talk that, hey, we love StarCraft esports, even with all the new games and new announcements and all the excitement that there is around those projects. You know, we'd still like to see StarCraft 2 supported for a while. Hey, we get such high-quality games. We get such high-quality games. We get such great storylines and matches. And I know it has been, I mean, one of the biggest parts of my life, which is crazy to say, but it's been a really big part of my life. So we will see. We will see. That is all to come. But right now, we got Game 3, SOO versus Classic, as we see once again. Ooh, Zergling's here. We'll get pushed away by the Oracle. Trying to get the turn on. Because again, that initial activation of the Pulsar Beam does actually cost a bit more energy than the 1 energy per second to keep it activated. So SOO being able to bait that out means that it's much less likely that these Oracles are going to be able to get as much damage across the map. You already see one of them is much, much lower, sitting at only 41 energy. It means you're going to have about 20 seconds of Pulsar Beamage for this Oracle. Good morph there into the Spore. We should already have one in the main as well, and yes, there is. Is it 2 energy per second? It is pretty quick. These Oracles run out of energy, and some great morphs again. Means that SOO is just going to lose, 3 drones in total so far. I think there was just the 2 there from those Oracles, and that is obviously a very, very good start. You have a Classic going into the triple Oracle. Again, this is the deviation that we've seen from 2000 Atmospheres, where he did just go the 2. These last 2 games has decided to go for 3, and of course, it's a bit more of an investment. You do need to try and find a bit more value than you would necessarily with 2 Oracles. And that might start to be a bit of an issue, especially with how careful SOO is now being with his mineral lines. We already have spore crawlers at all 3 before the 5-minute mark, which is absolutely what you should have if you know your opponent is going triple oracle, double or triple. As micro coming on through, 2 oracles get sniped, or 2 drones get sniped, but 1 oracle gets very low. So just gonna keep an eye there on those oracles. Zerglings making their way on out. +1 Blink Stalker is going to be on the way, and once again, Classic is going to be looking for that 3-base timing attack to try and defeat his opponent. But Cleo Reconstitution already on the way, not far behind the upgrades of the Protoss. The +1 should also be started up fairly shortly with this Evolution Chamber. These 3 oracles. They're going to try and look for some damage. They're just going to fly through, headed towards the 3rd base. We already have 2 queens and a spore here, which means that 1 oracle is going to fall. The 2nd is also going to go down. And 2 oracles for 9 drones is not the value that Classic was looking for. Now just has the only 1 oracle remaining. That means that no longer is he really going to be having the option of, you know, diving in and finding significant damage in the mineral line with that oracle while also harassing elsewhere. It's a lot less map vision for and map vision and also safety for the Protoss on the defensive end with that oracle, as we are going to be seeing Classic here gearing up for this attack. Now, mind you, these units don't have Blink of +1. This is a preemptive push here from Classic, and I'm not entirely sure if it's to try and bait SOO into making more units than he needs, or if it's to try and make SOO think that the actual +1 Blink Stalker timing is not on the way. But especially with this 4th base, it's a much more of a macro play from Classic. He's saying, listen, I'm just going to kind of poke. I'm not really committing super hard. And it was definitely good information gathering. Regardless of what the actual intent was, Classic realized, listen, SOO is pretty prepared for whatever I'm going to throw at him. So it's just going to get into disruptors, start on his +2, has his stalkers available now. He's going to be happy with that, as Hallucinate Phoenixes are going to find a little bit of value with their scouting. Don't really see much of interest, though, aside from the fact that there's an infestation pit on the way here for SOO. +1/+1 for the roaches and the Zerglings, Pneumaticized Carapace, and the centrifugal hooks. As SOO is just getting all of the tools that he needs for this. Just, you know, the run it by, the Roach Ravager Lingbane, roll over your opponent composition. He's getting ready. He's getting absolutely ready. Overseer, he's going to be able to scout out just a little bit of this base. Changeling is popped down. Overseer will get popped as well. And that's a Fleet Beacon. Stargate Fleet Beacon is scouted here by SOO, so immediately places down the Spire. Hive also on the way, knows what he needs to do in order to be ready for Carriers or Tempest if they eventually come out. It's going to be a very, very similar response for SOO, maybe just an additional unit added on in the Infestor or the Viper. SOO is setting up this run by. Gonna try and hit 2 locations at once, see how much worker damage he can get. And he's gonna dive on in. The Stalkers and the Disruptors are here though, but that's not where he's looking for the damage just yet. As the Banelings are gonna make their way through. Uh-oh, Classic needs to split away the probes. Has done a decent job of it so far, but you also have Zerglings now finding their way on into the base. Carriers are on the way, but it's scouted. SOO sees it. He knows that it's Carriers, and he's gonna find so much probe damage here. At the same time, tries to dive on into this base. Does he get all of the probes? No, they're pulled away just in time. But 31 probes in total have gone down from these attacks. And Classic is knocked down at 55. Still has an incredible amount of probes available to him, but they're not really mining anywhere. Almost all of them right now are on this natural and the 3rd base. As SOO is going to look for this run by, almost gets on into the base. It's going to be denied though by Classic. And now this Disruptor shot. The splits are good, as a lot of Zealots here are coming from the main. The Carrier as well means that SOO is going to have to back on up. He's going to have to look at how he wants to spend this bank, and 7 Corruptors is absolutely the way to do it if you want to deal with any sort of an air army. But I think that was 1 Corruptor just getting sniped there. Oh no, it's the Overseer. But the good news is that with that push, you found the probe damage. 33 probes falling. a lot at this fort. You also had all of the probes in the natural and the main. And so he's going to set up another run by. Carriers are the only thing right now in production for Classic. It's +2 ranged, +2 melee, adrenal glands, and the Flyer Carapace as well. Mind you, the reason why you get Flyer Carapace as the Zerg is because your Corruptors, once you get a high enough number, can just one-shot the carriers even without +1. The Carapace means that your Corruptors will survive long enough to one-shot all of the carriers, and that is the plan here for SOO. He is sharking around the 4th base. He's looking for an opening. There are, of course, these stasis wards. It's very, very hard to try and find an opening with those here. So he's going to kind of shut down the Zerglings, but also traps any units coming from the main inside. So Adrenal Glands has finished up. You now have the additional attack speed on these Cracklings. Oh, here comes SOO. He's looking for an opening. Has a few banelings. That's not really enough, I think, to really defeat or get through that Zealot line with just that initial push. So SOO is just going to back up. Actually gets the Zerglings here on into the main base. It's a full scout. Sees the continued carrier production. Sees that the ground upgrades are, of course, still on the way. You want that +3 for your Stalkers, for your Zealots. The Archon that the singular Archon that you had in it, I think you would like to see more here. For Classic, ideally, you would like to see a higher Archon count as the Banelings are going to roll on through once again. We are seeing the probes pulled away, but the Banelings are trying to chase them down. The Stalkers are going to absorb the hit for them. Classic does just not take a good trade so far as the Corruptors. They're going to go for it. They're going to try and dive on in. It does take 3 volleys here to get rid of the carriers, but again, they have that +1 Carapace. And that just means that they survive for so long, but SOO, his ground army is falling, and sure, he might knock down the carriers, but everything on the ground falls. His Corruptors are barely going to be able to stay alive. But so will 3 carriers. Some more upgrades coming in for SOO right now. We're sitting not a hefty bank, but is still starting to make one up as that is, yeah. That is a cancel and a half as the Zerglings trying to make their way here onto the Stalkers. Sorry, the Zerglings. Ugh. I am swallowing my words today. Gonna run by. It's already scouted out here. Classic is going to be able to get rid of all of them. And this game is suddenly very, very close. More Corruptors are being added in. They're finally going to get their +1 to help deal with those carriers a little bit quicker. And again, when you don't have the economy to go for a massive like 16 Corruptor ball, you're only sitting maybe a little bit higher than 10 or around 10. Then that attack upgrade is going to come in massive. And SOO once again is going to try and look here for an angle with these Zerglings and Banelings. He's going to be able to deny that Nexus once more. It's just a 4-base Protoss once again. But look at the carrier count, already sitting at 6. 3 more being added on. Archons are finally being morphed in. But the Corruptors diving on board. The surround is going to force a blink back as the Corruptors are left all alone. There's no Archons left. And SOO suddenly finds an opening. And he's going to be able to crush through the ground army of his opponent. And the Corruptors, they have better upgrades. They're going to just chew through the armor of the carriers. They are all going to fall. The 4th base gets absolutely ravaged. As SOO, all it takes is one bit of lazy positioning. GG! SOO is going to take it 2-1.